quarter. So this is actually the last week where we'll be doing lessons every day. Next week you have your summative assessment. So let's pay attention. We have a lot of things to teach and we're gonna jump right in.
Okay, so your writing journal for this week, we're starting Monday with write a story describing what happened in this photo. And you can look at this photo and see that it looks like a tree has fallen down, and on that tree is a tree stand. But if we pay really close attention to the bottom there, it doesn't look like it's been hit with an axe at all. It kind of looks like something else has happened there.
Okay, interesting. For Tuesday, have you ever had a big secret to keep? If so, describe how difficult it was to keep. If not, do you think you would have a hard time keeping a secret?
And Wednesday is your free write day, so write something neat.
On Thursday, imagine what it would be like to be alone for the rest of your life. Describe how you would feel and what you would do.
And then Friday is your fiction Friday, and this is write a fiction story where the main character learns an important lesson and use imagery to convey your message.
And we're going to talk a little bit about imagery later on.
We are.
Your agenda for this week. You're very familiar with this. You know you should be reading through it every day, checking off these boxes. We haven't added a whole lot to it. It's pretty similar to what we've been doing every single week. So let's keep going.
And these are our weekly objectives. This week we are going to continue reading our realistic fiction novel, Hatchet. We are going to really focus on revising and editing for clarity. We're going to learn and use new vocabulary. And then we're going to talk about theme, imagery, and repetition this week for our figurative language. And we're going to create a media news presentation.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Sounds fun.
So vocabulary. We have 5 vocabulary words this week. Primitive, persistent, wrenched, incessant, and infuriating. And go ahead and pause yourself for a moment. Think. How many of these words are familiar to you? You could use them in a sentence and feel fairly confident that you are using them correctly. You know, if you can only use 1 or 2 of them, then you're going to have a lot of studying to do this week.
Yes. And so our first word is primitive, and this is an adjective. Characteristics of an early stage of development. Brian created primitive tools using his hatchet. Our synonyms are crude and rudimentary, and antonyms are advanced and developed. And you can kind of see in the picture here, we've got like stones or rocks, things that are created with like elements of nature. There's not any metal happening here. There's not any like nails or things that you're actually making. They're just things that you're kind of coming up with from the earth.
Persistent is also an adjective. Continuing firmly or obstinately in a course of actions in spite of difficulty or opposition. Brian was persistent in his attempts to catch a fish. Synonyms: determined and persevering. Antonyms: hesitant or cowardice. And you see that this guy here, he is persistent. He's climbing this rock formation. It looks like it's probably difficult, and he's being persistent in doing that.
And the next one is wrenched, and this is a verb. This is injured, a part of the body as a result of a sudden twisting motion or movement. Brian's shoulder was wrenched by the large animal's antlers. Synonyms are sprained and twisted, and antonyms are repaired and healed. And you can see he's kind of holding his shoulder there.
Incessant, continuing without pause or interruption. The bird's incessant chirping quickly became annoying. So that means the bird would not stop. It continued chirping without pause or interruption. And you see here, this young lady is just continuing to speak without stopping, without pausing. So synonyms are ceaseless or constant. Antonyms: intermittent or occasional.
And our next word is infuriating, and this is an adjective, making one extremely angry and impatient, very annoying. The infuriating animal just wouldn't stop its unnecessary chatter. And you can see our picture here. She is just very upset. She looks very upset. Synonyms are exasperating or enraging. and antonyms are calming or soothing.
So our essential question, we've been working on this and we've talked about it with several different stories. What does it take to be a survivor? And so consider everything that Brian has been through. What is it taking for Brian to survive the situation that he is in? What character traits does he have to possess in order to survive his situation?
And so we're going to continue with Hatchet, but let's recap what has happened so far. Brian Robeson is a 13-year-old boy and has found himself stranded in the Canadian wilderness after the plane he was flying in crashed. He manages to find water, shelter, and food, though that has disappointing results at first. He's not very good at it. And then he meets a bear and has a terrifying encounter with a porcupine. We also know a little bit more about The Secret, and this is Brian's parents are divorcing due to his mother's infidelity, and that is a very good word.
Mm-hmm.
And so infidelity means like an affair.
Right.
Okay, which Brian witnessed. Due to the divorce, Brian had to fly in the ill-fated plane to visit his father in the Canadian oil fields. So what do you think is going to happen this week? How is Brian going to continue to face those challenges in the wilderness? And so I think that you're really going to enjoy this week because it picks up. There's a lot of interesting things that happen.
Yeah, I think pretty much anything that could happen to Brian in the wilderness will end up happening to him. So
not a luck kid.
he doesn't have great luck, but he does have a great sense of determination.
Yes.
All right, so stop for a minute and think. What do you think is the most important character trait that Brian must have to ensure his survival? So we've already met Brian. We've become pretty familiar with him. We've seen him go through a lot of things so far. What do you think is the most important trait that he has to have to survive this whole ordeal? So think about that. Maybe jot down a note and just consider for yourself, what do you think is most important about his character?
And so this week we're really going to focus on one of three things, repetition first. And if you have been reading Hatchet along with us, you know that Gary Paulson really loves to use repetition.
He does.
And this is a single word that is repeated more often than you would expect, as if the author is calling special attention to it. A situation that a character finds themselves in over and over again, or an idea that keeps coming up. The author may be trying to tell us something about the theme or the conflict through this repetition, like with The Secret.
Right.
The Secret, over and over. So, it's imperative that we stop and consider why the author is using this literary device. Why are they using repetition? So ask yourself, why does this keep showing up again and again? Like, what is so important about this word or this phrase or this situation that we really need to pay attention to? And that's going to help you understand the story better. So, again, how does repetition help you understand more about the story and more about the characters?
Mm-hmm. We're also going to talk about theme. Now, we've talked about theme this year. You're familiar with what theme is, so we're going to dig a little bit deeper into it in relation to Hatchet. We know that a theme is the message or lesson an author wants you to take away from the story. And remember, a theme should be general, and we should be able to apply it to any story or situation. So we can't say that the theme is Brian is a very determined person, because we can't take that and apply it to ourselves or another story. So we could say that in poor situations, determination is key.
Yeah.
And we can apply that to ourselves. And remember, in a novel, there are going to be more than one theme. So you're going to find several different themes through this story. Some of the common themes include honesty, responsibility, perseverance, love, friendship, good versus evil. So these are some examples, but don't stop at just one word.
Yes.
One word is where you start, and then you build a theme from that one word. And you can look for clues. What does the main character learn? Well, we've already seen that Brian learns a lot.
Yes.
Just in the short part that we've read so far, he's learning how important it is to keep going even in difficult situations. And we'll see lots of things that he learns throughout the story. What does the main character endure or go through? Well, he's gone through his parents' divorce, he's gone through a plane crash, he's gone through a porcupine attack. So he's gone through a lot so far. How does that help us learn more about the theme or what Gary Paulsen is trying to teach us through the story? How does the main character change? So already I think that we can see Brian is starting to mature a little more. He's becoming more self-reliant. He's learning that if anything is going to get done, he has to do it.
Yeah.
And what is repeated through the story? So we talked already about repetition. That repetition can help you find the theme. And as we keep going, I think the biggest theme in this story is man versus nature.
Yes.
And you will see time and again how Brian faces nature as an adversary. So look for that repetition. Look for the things that Gary Paulsen continues to talk about and mention in the story. So what is the theme in Hatchet? We just talked about that. And how do we know? What are our clues? Again, it's the repetition. It's what is focused on in the story. We keep coming back to Brian engaging with different elements of nature. It starts with the gut cherries. That's a pretty big thing.
Yeah.
He encounters the porcupine, and you'll see there are many, many more things in nature that Brian has to contend with.
And he kind of, as he encounters them, he adapts.
Exactly.
And he takes that knowledge and he builds on it. He becomes stronger in his time in the wilderness.
Yes, so he doesn't just take it and lay down and give up. He uses what he learns from that. And I think every single time that he encounters something, he learns from it.
Yeah. And so we're also going to look at imagery this week. And imagery is language an author gives you to help you visualize the story. So we're looking for words, phrases, and sentences that help you see, hear, taste, touch, or smell what is going on in the story. And I think Gary Paulsen does this so well. He makes everything to where you can really visualize it or smell it or feel what's going on, especially when he starts describing food.
Yes.
It makes me hungry.
Absolutely.
So what are some examples of imagery in Hatchet? We've got some here. So back in on page 6, there was the sudden smell of body gas in the plane. This calls our smell sense, and it makes us go, oh, someone's tummy's upset here. This is not a good situation. And that's one of the first symptoms the pilot is showing.
Yes.
And then on page 26, the glittering blue in the late afternoon sun. That's just pretty. It shows you kind of how the water is reflecting the light, and it's just a really pretty visual. Page 29, someone screamed, tight animal screams of fear and pain. That lets you know exactly how scared Brian is, and it plays on like your sense of hearing. Page 34, worst was the keening throb in his head that pulsed with every beat of his heart. That's your feel and touch. And I think all of us have had a really bad headache at one time that feels like your heart beats in your head. And so that calls something in us to kind of visualize it. And then we have page 45. It wasn't that they were bitter so much as they lacked any sweetness, had a tart flavor that left his mouth dry feeling. So that's calling on our sense of taste. It's really a great description of what those gut cherries taste like.
Yes.
And so how does imagery help you understand more about the story? It really helps you understand your environment. It gives you all of those senses to visualize in the story, and it makes you feel like you're part of the story. It makes you feel like you're part of the environment and experiencing it with Brian.
Well, and if you've never been in the wilderness, if you've never been camping or spent time in the wilderness, it helps you understand the story better. And I think imagery is especially important when we're reading like fantasy, where the author has invented a whole new setting. We can really start to learn what the author wants us to visualize.
Yes.
So don't underestimate
Definitely.
those details. They're very important.
Yes, especially with world building.
Yes. So we're going to talk in depth this week about revising and editing because you will have a revising and editing passage on your summative. We're going to start being really in depth with this, and in the spring we expect that you will have a revise and edit passage on the STAR test. So we want you to be as prepared as possible. We know that you learned this in 4th grade. We expect that you didn't spend a lot of time working on this in 5th grade. So we're going to dig back in, talk about some strategies, and give you lots of practice. So today we're going to talk about revising sentences. So we know that a complete sentence has a subject and a predicate. It has to have both parts or it's not complete. You can have compound subjects and compound predicates. So Melissa and Jake went to the store is a compound subject. Melissa and Jake, they're both doing something. Melissa bought cake and ate it all. So she's doing two things here. She bought cake, she ate it all. And I know some of us would be apt to put a comma up here before and try to make it into a compound sentence that way, but that's not the way it works because ate it all doesn't have a separate predicate. So she's doing two things, bought cake and ate it all, but Melissa is the only subject in that sentence. So a compound sentence also can combine two simple sentences, like I was just talking about. So Jenna sings in the choir, Mandy sings in the choir. We can say Jenna and Mandy sing in the choir. So they're both doing the same thing. Instead of being kind of redundant or repetitive, we can take both of those names and just turn it into one sentence. In the summer, Jose fishes. In the summer, Jose swims. So you see, that sounds really repetitive.
Yeah.
So instead, we can take both of those predicates and say, in the summer, Jose fishes and swims. And it makes it sound better.
Smoother.
Kelly speaks softly. Her brother shouts. So those are kind of related things, opposites.
Yeah.
She does one thing, but her brother does another. We can combine those with a comma and a conjunction. Kelly speaks softly, but her brother shouts. So we're going to practice using these sentences. Mitchell loves to bake cakes. Mitchell wants to be a baker when he grows up. Mitchell bakes beautiful cakes. Mandy eats the cakes Mitchell bakes. This is getting really hard to read. Mandy thinks Mitchell's cakes are the best. Mandy thinks Mitchell's cakes are the tastiest. Mitchell wants to enter a baking competition. Mitchell is afraid of doing poorly. Wow. This needs some help.
A little bit.
So what is the best way to combine sentences 1 and 2? So we see Mitchell loves to bake cakes. Mitchell wants to be a baker when he grows up. So both subjects in this sentence are Mitchell. Okay, so he wants to do two different things. He loves to bake cakes, and he wants to be a baker. So I know that if I keep that one subject, I can add both of those predicates and make it a compound predicate. Mitchell loves to bake cakes and is a grown-up baker. That is not what that's saying. We don't want to change the meaning when we're combining sentences. Mitchell the baker loves to bake cakes. That actually changed the subject, and we don't want to do that. Mitchell loves to bake cakes and wants to be a baker when he grows up. So I see we've kept that subject, loves to bake cakes and wants to be a baker when he grows up. I don't see an extra subject, so this is a compound predicate. Mitchell loves to bake cakes and wants to be a baker when he grows up, but I see there's a comma there, and we can't do that because there's not a subject or an extra subject here. So C is the best answer because it combines Mitchell loves to bake cakes and wants to be a baker when he grows up. It gives both of those predicates there.
It makes both of those things go together real smooth.
Yes.
So our next one is the best way to combine sentences 3 and 4. Mitchell bakes beautiful cakes. Mandy eats the cakes Mitchell bakes. Okay, so we've got two subjects here. We've got Mitchell and we've got Mandy. And so how do we combine both of these? So Mitchell bakes beautiful cakes and Mandy eats them. Well, that tells me what Mitchell does and what Mandy does, and it combines them with our conjunction. It's got that one looks pretty okay, but I
Yeah.
need to go through the rest of them
Definitely.
first. Mitchell bakes and eats beautiful cakes. Well, that we got rid of Mandy entirely there.
Poor
That
Mandy.
changed the meaning. So that's not a good one. C. Mitchell bakes beautiful cakes and Mandy eats them. That's a good way of combining them, but I remembered you said about having two subjects and it
Mhm.
being really important to have a comma before that
Yes.
and. So it looks right, but it's missing that comma.
We can't just smash two complete
Yeah.
sentences together without the comma conjunction. It doesn't
Exactly.
work.
And then Mitchell and Mandy bake and eat beautiful cakes. Well, that changes our meaning again because it doesn't tell us about Mitchell eating the cakes at all
No,
or Mandy baking them. So our best answer choice is A.
I agree.
It combines them and it has that comma.
What is the best way to combine sentences 5 and 6? So, Mandy thinks Mitchell's cakes are the best. Mandy thinks Mitchell's cakes are the tastiest. So I see Mandy is a subject in both of these, and she thinks two different things. She thinks Mitchell's cakes are the best, and Mitchell's cakes are the tastiest. So how can we combine these? Mandy and Mitchell think his cakes are the best and tastiest. So that changes the meaning because it doesn't say what Mitchell's thinking. Mandy thinks Mitchell's cakes are the best, and she thinks his cakes are the tastiest. Okay, so that is a compound sentence, and it has all the information. So that could work.
Yeah.
It's still a little wordy. It's
Yeah.
a little clunky. So
Yeah.
we'll keep going. Mandy thinks Mitchell's cakes are the best and the tastiest. So I'm not sure why there's a comma there because the tastiest is not a complete sentence. So we can't just randomly put commas in places.
Yeah.
Mandy thinks Mitchell's cakes are the best and the tastiest. So that sounds great.
That sounds good.
It tells me what Mandy thinks about Mitchell's cakes because she thinks two things about them, and it says it in a really smooth, seamless,
Yes.
easy way. So D is the best answer.
It's definitely the smoothest. And so now we're going to talk about combining sentences 7 and 8. Mitchell wants to enter a baking competition. Mitchell is afraid of doing poorly. So again, we have the same subject who is wanting to do something and is kind of afraid of that same thing. So they're all kind of the same concept. So Mitchell wants to enter a baking contest, so he is afraid of doing poorly. That so there doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that
Um,
means that because he's entering the baking contest, he's afraid of doing poorly. That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
Doesn't make any sense. Mitchell wants to enter a baking contest, but he is afraid of doing poorly. That's a pretty good one.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to do something, but he's afraid of kind of not doing well. Mitchell wants to enter a baking contest, and he is afraid of doing poorly. Well, yeah, but not.
It doesn't have
that
create
same-
as strong of a relationship as but does. So
Yes.
it works. I feel like but creates a stronger
Yes.
relationship there.
And then last, Mitchell wants to enter a baking contest, and he is afraid of doing poorly. We've got Mitchell as being our subject over here, and we've got he over here, which can also be a subject. So if this were right, we'd still need a comma before the and
Yeah.
we don't have it, so that's not
Can't just
grammatically
smash
right.
sentences together.
But I really feel like B is the best one
Mhm.
because, like you said, but kind of makes that a stronger connection
Mhm.
between those two sentences.
All right, so our next little lesson for revising and editing is for organization, coherence, and transition. So when you revise, make sure that the ideas and information flow smoothly and make sense. We started talking about that a little bit just
Mhm.
now. You want it to flow smoothly, kind of roll off the tongue, if
Yes.
you will. You don't want it to be clunky. So coherence is the way that things stick together to create a whole. So look at each paragraph and decide if you need to add more information. Make sure that the information that you've given is enough for your reader to understand. Decide if you need to add more details so that your reader can understand. And remove any sentences that do not belong or wander off topic. You don't want to throw in information that your reader does not need. And then again, a compound sentence combines two simple sentences. So Jenna sings in the choir, Mandy sings in the choir. Jenna and Mandy sing in the choir. Hello. Organization. Make sure your writing has a strong beginning, middle, and end. You know that, guys.
Yes.
Transitional words. We were talking about these last week. They help connect your ideas and show their relationship. Check that your writing flows smoothly and that you're using the transition words to show the relationship that you want. So I gave you some examples. This is not a complete list, but it is some examples. So if you want to show sequence of events, use words like first, second, then, and next. If you want to show a cause and effect relationship, this happened because that happened, use words like because, since, or so. If you want to show how things are alike, like, also, similarly. And if you want to show how things are different, use words like although, but, however.
And so we're going to practice with this one. For my birthday, she gave me tickets to a Taylor Swift concert. My mom is the best mom ever. She also knows I've always wanted to see Taylor Swift in concert. I thought she was going to give me clothes for my birthday. She gave me the best gift ever. I have never been so excited. I love watching TV and eating donuts.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay, interesting.
So, which would be the best sentence to begin this story with? And it says sentence 1. For my birthday, she gave me tickets to a Taylor Swift concert. Well, that one, I kind of want to know who she is.
Right?
It doesn't tell me who she is.
If you're going to use a pronoun, you should first introduce
the person.
who the pronoun is going to refer to.
Yes. Sentence 2. My mom is the best mom ever.
That feels like that kind of feels like a main idea sentence.
Yeah. Sentence 3. She knows I've always wanted to see Taylor Swift in concert. Well, again, it's like that she. Who is she knows. Sentence 4. I thought she was going to give me clothes for my birthday. So which one of these is the best sentence to begin the story with? I kind of feel like it's jumping off with the my mom is the best mom ever and then explaining why mom is the best mom ever.
I feel like that would be the best one also. So I think B would be the best answer there. Which transition word could be added to the beginning of sentence 5? So remember, if we're looking at transition words, we have to read the sentence before as well. I thought she was going to give me clothes for my birthday. She gave me the best gift ever. So I thought she was going to give me clothes for my birthday first. She gave me the best gift ever. First is kind of an odd word to use there. Kind of at the end of the paragraph.
Yeah, it doesn't work sequentially.
I thought she was going to give me clothes for my birthday since she gave me the best gift ever.
That's kind of that cause and effect thing that doesn't
Exactly. I'm not sure that is the cause or effect.
Yeah.
That's not the relationship we're getting there. I thought she was going to give me clothes for my birthday. Instead, she gave me the best gift ever. Okay. So that's kind of like, I thought this, but this happened.
Yes.
So kind of a contrast there. I thought she was going to give me clothes for my birthday. Also, she gave me the best gift ever. I don't feel like that, we're not adding something there. So I feel like C is the best answer. It kind of creates that comparing and contrasting relationship.
Yes.
I thought this was going to happen. Instead, this happened.
Definitely. And so, which sentence should be deleted from this paragraph? Sentence 4. I thought she was going to give me clothes for my birthday. Well, when we put instead in that next sentence, it really flows better and it kind of gives that cause and effect, or not cause and effect, that one than the other. Sentence 5. She gave me the best gift ever. Well, it is all about her birthday gift, so.
Yeah.
Sentence 6, I have never been so excited. That goes with the Taylor Swift tickets, excitement. Sentence 7, I love watching TV and eating donuts. That
That's
one,
such a weird sentence.
yeah, it doesn't really have anything to do with birthdays or Taylor Swift tickets or,
It's very off topic.
it's very off topic. So the one we can delete from this one is definitely sentence 7.
Agree. So editing sentences. So revising is kind of fixing things so they sound good. Editing is getting into the heart of the grammar part. And we have talked a lot about grammar, guys. We have really been focusing on how what all the parts of speech are and how to use those. So you should be familiar with this. But we're going to talk a little bit about subject-verb agreement because your subject has to agree with your verb. If the subject is singular, the verb has to be singular. The goose, one goose, runs. So goose runs after my dog. If the subject is plural, the verb must be plural. The geese run after my dog. So more than one goose are geese. Geese run. A compound subject has two or more subjects joined by and, or nor. So when two subjects are joined by and, the subject is always plural. So Brandy and Allison, that's two people, they love cake. When two subjects are joined by or nor, the verb can be singular or plural. So this is where it gets tricky. The noun that is closest to the verb after or nor tells you whether it's singular or plural. So Mark nor the boys like potato chips. So even though Mark is singular, boys is closest to the verb like. So boys tells us that like needs to be plural. So boys like potato chips. And that one, I think we're going to have to practice a little bit.
And so we have, my cats is so funny. Salmon and sardine are my favorites. Salmon like to run and play with string. The rest of the cats thinks Salmon is crazy, but I think he's hilarious. My sisters nor I wants to get rid of any of our cats. We love our cats.
Ooh, tricky. 3.
So we need to talk about a change in sentence 1. My cats is so funny. So change cats to kittens? No, I don't think so. I think that cats is a pretty good word. Change is to are. Well, my cats is so funny does sound kind of odd. What about my cats are so funny?
That would make it the subject and the verb
Plural. So that's a really solid choice. Change funny to funny. Now, funny's spelt right up there. You need 2 N's. And change my to lowercase my. Oh, absolutely not. You start a sentence with a capital letter.
Right.
So the best answer choice is changing that verb and making it plural. So my cats are funny.
And then sentence 3. Salmon like to run and play with string. Okay, so we should change run to ran. Salmon like to ran and play with string. That changes the tense. We don't want to do that. Salmon like to run and played with string. Okay, that makes it even harder to say. Again, changes the tense, and we're not changing that. Salmon likes to run and play with string. So that fixes it so that we have a singular subject and a singular verb. That is helpful. Change uppercase salmon to lowercase salmon. Well, salmon is a proper noun, so we need him to be capitalized. So I think C, changing like to likes, is the best answer.
I think so too. And so what change should be made to sentence 4? The rest of the cats thinks Salmon is crazy, but I think he's hilarious. So do we need to change is to are? So the rest of the cats thinks Salmon is crazy. Well, Salmon is our subject, and so it needs to match our verb. Though Salmon is crazy, that sounds right. That goes together. They're singular verb, or they're singular. Change rest to rested. The rested of the cats. Oh no.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means. Change cats, lowercase cats, to capital letter cats. Well, in this case, cats is just a common noun. It's just.
Yeah, unless they're a band, which I don't think they
I
are.
don't think, yeah, so cats lowercase is fine. Change thinks to think. The rest of the cats think salmon, yes. Because cats is plural, so we need to have that plural verb. So cats think.
And which change should be made to sentence 5? My sisters nor I wants to get rid of any of our cats. So remember we talked about nor. And if you have the compound subject with nor, we're not going to look at sisters. We're only going to look at the subject that is closest to the verb I. If we use I, we don't say I wants. We say I want. And I see that A changes wants to want, but we can't just stop there. We do need to look at our other answer choices. Change get to got. My sisters nor I wants to got rid. That actually changes the tense again.
Yeah.
Change lowercase sisters to uppercase sisters. My uppercase sisters. No, that's just a common, a common noun right there. We don't want to change that. Change rid to ride. My sisters nor I wants to get ride of any of our cats. That makes no sense at all. So the best answer is A.
Okay, and for your writing lessons this week, you have been working on your news report. You've been getting your information in order. This week we're going to create a news broadcast using Flipgrid.
I can't wait to watch these.
It's going to be such fun. You're going to include as many facts and details from the stories as you can. You're going to speak as a reporter, stating facts, and you're going to try to make your report engaging by providing detail and description. And so this is going to be a really fun activity for you guys to kind of create your own newscast and news report and be very serious journalists while you do it.
And I will say, if you want to call in backup, if you want to get a sibling or a parent to help you with this, that is great.
That would be awesome.
Feel free to get creative. You're welcome to use props. We love to see how creative you can get with this.
Oh goodness, if you would like to step outside with the woods as your background, reporting on location.
Go for it. And also, before we forget, be looking for information about your Hatchet project. So that's going to go out Monday morning. You're going to create a project just like you did with Where the Red Fern Grows. It will be due next week on Wednesday. So make sure that you're working on that, reading Hatchet, finding the information that you need for your project. You'll see you have several different options to create your project. So good luck, get started on it, and we can't wait to see it. And I guess we'll have to see you next time. Bye.